Today let us create a simple paint app which allows us to create drawings using different shapes and colors. To begin with, let us create a new project. Go to My Projects, select Start New Project. Let us name our application as Sketch. Click on OK. For our application, the first thing we need is a canvas on which we can create our drawings. If you scroll down to Drawing and Animation, you will find Canvas. Canvas is the rectangular touch-sensitive panel which is usually used for drawing purposes. The Canvas tool features several built-in functions that allows you to draw a variety of shapes. So let us drag and drop the canvas onto our app. Now let me customize the Canvas app to fill to the entire screen. Select Canvas, we'll change its height to fill parent and also width to fill parent. So this is all the components we need to build a very simple paint application. Let us switch to the blocks view. Canvas is the only component we have. Let us start with some simple drawings. Say, drawing a line. I want a line to be drawn from the point where I touch the finger on the screen. I drag it and then I lift the finger up from the screen on another point. The Canvas supports useful functions like drag. You can code what should happen when you drag your finger over the canvas. What should happen when you touch the screen? What should happen when you lift your finger up from the screen? Other than these, we have several built-in functions such as clear to clear the contents of the screen. We have built-in functions to draw certain shapes such as draw arc, draw circle, draw line. We also have functions to write text onto the screen. We can change the background color of the screen using this function. We can change the drawing pen color and much more. Among the different options that Canvas provides for us, I am interested in the touch down and touch up event. I want a line to be drawn from the point where I have touched down on the screen till the point where I have lifted the finger from the screen. So these are the two functions that I'll need for now. We need to have some variables to store the coordinates of the starting point and the ending point. The start point would be where I would touch down on the screen and the end point would be where I would lift the finger from the screen. Each point is represented using two coordinates, x and y. So start point will have an x and y coordinate and end point will have an x and y coordinate. Therefore, let us declare 4 variables to represent these 2 points. Let us name the start point coordinates as x1, y1 and the end point coordinates as x2, y2. Let us initialize the values of these points to 0. From the math component, drag and drop the constant and set it as the value of each coordinate. We'll copy the value of x1 to create the variables y1, x2 and y2 and we'll rename it accordingly. Now let us write the logic for touchdown. Touchdown event is called when I touch the screen. The coordinates of the touch point are received as parameters x and y of this event. On touchdown, I have to set the start point of my line drawing. That is, I have to assign the values of the touch coordinates x and y to the start point maintained by the global variables x1 and y1. I'll make use of a set block to assign the value of start point to the coordinates obtained from touchdown event. Touch up is an event that is called when you lift your finger from the screen. The coordinates of this point are received as parameters x and y of the touch up event. This point serves as the end point for our line. So let us use the set block once again to set the values of the end point, that is x2, y2, to the coordinates received by this event. After setting up the start and end point, the last thing to do is to actually draw the line. The Canvas component has several built-in functions for drawing. Select the drawLine function and drop it on the touch-up event. DrawLine expects the start and end points of the line to be specified. Let us insert the global variables x1, y1 as the start point into these slots and x2, y2 as the end points. Well, that is all the logic we need to create this simple Paint app. Let us now test our app. As you must have noticed, our app now allows us to draw the lines only. We would want to have more features on our app. So first, let us add some components to our screen that allows us to choose different options for drawing. For this, let us add some buttons to the user interface. To arrange these buttons horizontally one after the other, let us first add horizontal arrangement component. I'll drag and drop it above the canvas. Now let me change its height and width. I'll also change the background color to white. Now that the horizontal component is ready, let me add some buttons to this layout. The first button is to choose the Draw Lines option. I'll rename this button as Line button. The next button is to select Draw Circles. So I'll rename it as the Circle button. The third button is for freehand drawing. Let us rename it as Pencil button. Let us make some space before we add the fourth button. If I remove the text on the button, we can make space for another button. The last button is to clear the contents on the screen. Let us name it as Clear button. We will now align the buttons to the center. To do this, select the horizontal layout component. Set its align horizontal and align vertical values to the center. The next step is to add relevant images to the buttons. Select the button, click on the image property, upload the image file that you want to set for this button. You may have to resize the image in this process. I will set the image height and width to 40 pixels so that it fits perfectly in the horizontal layout area. Let us repeat this process for all the buttons. Clicking on any of these buttons will allow us to change the drawing modes. For example, clicking on the first button will set the drawing mode to line drawing. Clicking on the second button will allow us to draw circles. The third button will allow us to perform freehand sketch, and the fourth button is to clear the contents on the screen. This is all the components we need for now. Let us switch to Blocks Editor to add some app logic. We had already created some logic for the touchdown and touch-up event. On touchdown, the start point of the drawing will be recorded. On touch-up, that is, lifting the finger from the screen, the endpoint of the drawing will be recorded, followed by drawing the object on the screen. Now we have upgraded our app to work in 3 modes. Let us create a global variable that keeps track of what mode we are in right now. We will name this variable as mode and will set the default mode to line mode. Previously, after recording the start and end points, we draw the line using the draw line block. Now our drawing will differ based on what mode we are in right now. I'll remove the draw line block for the time being. Appropriate drawing commands will hold depending on the value of the mode. We will add an if else block to decide what shape has to be drawn. The draw line should be called if and only if the mode is in line mode. We will add this condition using one of the blocks in the logic compartment. The check for equality block can be perfect for our requirement. If mode equals to line, then call draw line function. We can read the value of mode using get block from the variables compartment. To compare it with line, we will use the text constant block. If the condition is true, only then we will call draw line. Else, we will check for other modes. I will copy the condition block and reuse it to check for the circle mode. If the mode is circle, we need to call the block that draws the circle. In the canvas compartment, we have a function called the draw circle. It expects us to give the coordinates of the center and the radius as the input. Let us set the start point as the center of the circle and the radius as the differences in x values. To compute the difference, let us make use of the blocks in the math compartment. Let us give the first value as the end point x coordinate and the second value as the start point x coordinate. The fill parameter tells whether the circle should be filled with color or be hollow. By default, it is set to true, that is in fill mode. Let us change it to draw the outline only. The next mode of drawing that we need to program is the freehand draw mode. As you must have noticed, there is no ready-made freehand draw method in the canvas. If you give it a thought, freehand drawing is also done using the draw line method. The difference between line and freehand drawing is that in a line we have a start point and we have an end point, and a line is drawn between them. The start point is a point where we have touched down on the screen, and end point is the point where we have lifted the finger from the screen. Freehand drawing is also about drawing lines, but it is not between the start and end points, but between every intermediary point in between. If I am in the line drawing mode, I click on the screen, move the cursor in all possible directions and finally lift the finger from the screen. Still, I'll be getting a line from the first point to the end point only. Whereas, if I were in freehand drawing mode, the line would be drawn between each and every point on the way between the starting and the ending point. What we understood from the previous example is that clearly touch down and touch up are not the events that we want for freehand drawing. Instead, we should use the dragged event. Line should be drawn as the cursor is dragged along the screen. In Canvas, you have an event called drag to represent the dragging event. Here, start x and start y is the starting point of the drag, that is the touchdown point. Previous x, previous y represents the intermediate previous points of the drag. Current x and current y is where you are right now. To get the freehand drawing, you need to draw a line between the previous point and the current point of the dragged event. Drag and drop this event to the editor. All we need to do is draw the line between the previous point and the current point. So select the draw line method from the canvas and drop it into the dragged event. We do not always want a line to be drawn when we drag on the canvas. Therefore, we need to add the condition. Only if the draw mode is in pencil, that is freehand mode, then we would want to draw a line between the intermediate points. Otherwise, we do not want any kind of line to be drawn in between. Let us drag an if block to the editor. We have to draw the line only if the mode is pencil or freehand mode. From the logic compartment, get the check for equality block for our if condition. Now check if mode equals to pencil. If the condition is true, only then draw the line. The line has to be drawn between the previous point on the drag to the current point. With this, we have completed the logic for all the three modes of drawing. The only thing left to do is to update the value of mode whenever a button is clicked. Whenever the line button is clicked, the mode should be set to line. When the circle button is clicked, the mode should be set to circle. When the pencil button is clicked, the mode should be set to pencil. And finally, when the eraser button is clicked, the canvas content should be cleared. Let us now update the click event of each button to reflect this change. And finally, when the clear button is clicked, we can call the function that clears the canvas contents directly. This is all the logic we need to implement the sketch function. Let us now test this app on a phone.